I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game.
If you're looking for the best basketball talk in the universe, you just found it. This is Deep Hoops, where fans are the host. Tim Brayboy, Troy Ramel Royal, and me, your point guard, Jehudi. We're talking basketball, all basketball, and nothing but basketball. So sit back and enjoy the best basketball talk in the podcast universe. This is Deep Hoops.
We're back and welcome to another edition of Deep Hoops. I'm the Minister.
And I'm Rob.
And we're here to talk NBA basketball. That's all we do. We talk basketball, all basketball, and nothing but basketball. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about.
A lot to talk about.
Now, let me just say this. We're not experts, but we are passionate fans, just like you, and we're chopping it up on the NBA trade deadline.
Wow.
Ron, what was your biggest surprise? Let's start there.
Well, before we do that, I got to give a shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles for their first Super Bowl.
Boo.
Those who knows me knows that I'm an Eagles fan. Their order is Knicks, Mets, Jets, Eagles. But back to the show at hand.
Are we done with that?
Yeah, we're done with
I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, so you know that hurts. But I was rooting for you in the Super Bowl because I didn't want to see New England get their 6 before we get our 6.
I appreciate that.
All right.
Thanks for the love.
But that's it.
All right.
Never again. But anyway, back to the NBA. You know, we talked about the draft deadline, but you mentioned something. We haven't had a show since Blake Griffin moved over to Detroit.
Right. Make no mistakes about it. Cleveland made an explosion on trade deadline day. But even though they made the explosion, the Blake Griffin trade was a surprise too.
Oh.
I didn't see that coming.
No one saw that coming.
The fact that it was in the works for a week and it didn't
leak
out.
at all. Woj didn't even talk about it. Didn't know about it.
He may not wasn't.
No one was aware. And I mean, Jerry West, the logo.
Wow.
You know, when he does something, when he's involved with something, you're not going to have a lot of leakage.
And you know, I got to applaud Stan Van Gundy. It was a risk, and it still may be a risk going down the line, but he had a team that may have peaked.
Right. It wasn't going to go anywhere.
Right. And he needed kind of a jolt or a spark or a boost.
Right.
And, you know, they had problems selling out. So it was just as much of a savvy business move.
Right. To put some butts in the seats.
Right. In the new arena, as well as possibly maybe growing in the playoffs. And right now, Blake Griffin should have asked for this trade a long time ago. He looks re-energized, rejuvenated. He's looking more than the Blake Griffin that we saw in L.A. I mean, he's looking like a point forward a little bit.
But Rob, in the first part of the season, he looked like Blake Griffin. I mean, he was playing exceptionally well. And then he had the injury, and then he started coming back, and then, of course, the trade jolted him to another level. But, I mean, he was looking good early in the season as well.
And I believe since the announcement of the trade, I think Detroit has only lost one game.
Well, they lost today against Atlanta.
Okay, so they lost 2 games. And also, what makes this a seamless fit is that he's playing alongside a Drummond who has the resemblance of a DeAndre Jordan and may even be more of an offensive threat
Maybe.
than DeAndre Jordan.
Maybe.
So, and his ability to set him up and allow Drummond now to get a little bit more one-on-one action. This is a huge move.
I mean,
It's
you
a
know,
huge move.
Reggie Jackson is still out.
Yes.
They're going to need him. There's some other little things that they're probably going to do, and the trade did not hurt the Clippers either.
No,
I mean, you know, the Clippers are not. Now they're not making the playoffs. I don't think.
they're playing pretty well.
But they are playing well. But I think eventually OKC and some of the other teams, if they get in, they're going to be an 8th seed. If they get in. If they get in.
Yes,
but they're playing good. And didn't Lou Williams get a new contract?
He's got a new contract, and the thing about his contract is that it's a very tradable contract.
Right.
He's got a 3-year, $24 million deal. Good to see him get a long-term deal because he seemed like he's been one of those guys that just
bounce around, journeyman almost.
Yeah.
But I mean, and he's
and produces.
Exactly.
Produces. No matter where he goes.
No matter where he lands, he's going to produce. Right. He can shoot.
Now, he cannot be traded for at least 6 months.
So there won't be any trade to a playoff team or anything like that?
No, I mean, it would have to be after the season. I mean, because this is February, he cannot be traded until August. So maybe a draft day trade that can't be officially announced until August. But, yeah, he can be traded, though.
And he's probably going to be.
Yeah, but a very friendly contract.
Very friendly contract, and I would not be surprised if Boston goes after him, needing some more shooting, or if Philadelphia goes after. I mean, he's a valuable commodity.
He's a valuable commodity. But with that said,
Cleveland.
Wow.
Cleveland.
Whether you're in favor of the trade or not, whether you think that this automatically sends them to the finals or not, it was a gutsy move. It was a huge move. And I think it was the right move for Cleveland.
Other than Isaiah Thomas and his family, who wouldn't be in favor of the trade? I
mean, they sent 6 people out.
And the other people that they sent out.
Yeah, they sent 6 people out. And the fact that they showed D. Wade some respect and sent him to Miami.
Back to Miami.
That was class.
Right.
But, I mean, they brought in George Hill, Rodney Hood, Larry Nance Jr., and Isaiah
I think it's
Thomas.
a steal. That's
not Isaiah. Jordan Clarkson. Great moves. And I don't know where you stand on it, but I do think that this move is better for seasons to come than it is for this season.
And that's what I said. I told someone they did all of this and didn't give up the Brooklyn pick.
Correct.
So they did all of the trades, held on to the Brooklyn pick, and now if LeBron does leave, they're not going to be a championship. But exactly. Right. They'll be competitive in the East.
Right.
And with that Brooklyn pick, either they can, shop it, trade it, get someone else. So they've given themselves a lot of flexibility. And if I'm not mistaken, there are no bad contracts that they brought over.
No, Jordan Clarkson is actually on a friendly contract. Mm-hmm. Larry Nance is still
on his rookie contract.
Rodney Hood is a restricted free agent at the end of the season. And George Hill is in the first year of a 3-year, $51 million deal.
But none of them, not a bad contract.
Yeah, I know. I really think that this move here is actually a move that increases Cleveland's chances of retaining LeBron past the season.
Deuce asked, is this going to ensure that LeBron is... There's no guarantee with LeBron. I mean, none whatsoever. And just think of it this way. The trade was made with the Lakers for Clarkson and Nance so that the Lakers could free up money to sign LeBron.
Right.
So if he leaves and goes to the Lakers, Cleveland helped him to go.
Right. And here's the thing. I thought that there was a loser throughout this all, OKC. And I thought that Magic could be a loser down the line.
How's that?
And here's why I think Magic could be a loser down the line. Prior to the trade, if you look at any team that was not making the playoffs, which like the Lakers, there's not a team that had more talent than the Los Angeles Lakers. Mm-hmm. And he risked Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance for expiring contracts, thinking he's going to land Paul George and LeBron. If they don't land him, he's back. He's further back than where he started. I see Paul George staying 1 year in OKC beyond this season, and I don't see LeBron going to the Lakers.
I don't see LeBron going to the Lakers, and to be honest with you, I don't see it as a bad thing. I mean, I like Nance. But it gives them flexibility. I think Randall is going to be gone also. But I think it's going to happen. Whether they get LeBron and George, they really have their eyes also on 2019 and Klay Thompson.
Right. To me, that's where they should focus.
I think that's...
And I thought by keeping Clarkson and Nance, that would have helped to bring those agents in 2019, because I really think that their approach was to take it like Golden State. Treat it like a plant. Put it in the sunshine and water it. And because, people fail to realize that they went to the finals and won that first finals with Barnes, Curry, Clay, and Draymond Green. And remember, they were all drafted. So,
and they made a
steps.
Complimented with Iguodala and some other players.
Right.
But no big free agents.
Even Festus Ezeli, who was the
drafted,
big man that came off the bench, was drafted. And
what happened to him?
He was injured, and now he's out of the league. So
wow.
I really think that Magic, and maybe it's a move he had to make, but I would have gave it a second look. I really would.
I think, and who knows? I think he is just bent on being flexible, having that money, whether he can get LeBron or not. 2019. Who else comes up in 2019?
Oh, you got a group of players. From the Kemba Walkers, the Kyrie Irvings, the Klay Thompson, Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler. There's a nice group that's going to be available.
And just think, if there's any truth to the rumor that Kawhi Leonard has soured on San Antonio.
Could be something.
I know he went to school in San Diego. Is he from Southern California?
I'm not sure exactly where is he from, but yes, he did go to school.
I think he went San Diego State University, yes. Yeah. So if he's from the Southern California area, wouldn't be far-fetched, as they're talking about George wanting to return home. If he's from the Southern California area, and I wish we had a crack staff of researchers, but our researchers are on crack, so but if he is from Southern California, that could be a welcome home for him.
Yeah, it could be. I still think it's a long shot because that's not San Antonio way, but could be interesting. But I want to ask you a question, because everybody's talking about Magic Johnson's gonna bring these free agents, and hopefully he does. But do we have to go back to Shaquille O'Neal for the last major free agent signing for the Los Angeles Lakers?
The last major.
We could talk about the one-year rentals of Karl Malone or the one-year rental of Gary Payton. Dwight Howard was traded.
Right.
Paul Gasol was traded.
Right.
So do we have to go back to Shaq for the major free agent signing?
We need to put our crack research staff on that.
You're talking about it's been 20 years since LA got their guy. And free agency.
The funny thing about that, we're saying, I don't think that they need to build it through free agents.
I don't think so either.
I really think, use that money wisely. Build a good nucleus, a good team, role players, let your young players get a little more season. I'll tell you this, though, and I heard another podcaster say this, and I've been saying the same thing. I'm not big on Ingram.
I've said it too.
I am not big on Ingram.
I'm not big on Ingram as well. In fact, I think I would have been more prone to keeping Nance or Clarkson and let Ingram go. And one of the reasons why with Ingram, I think Ingram is giving you what you want to see. The aggressiveness. He's taking on like a personal challenge that he knows Kuzma is behind him. But to me, Ingram has not grown into that player in his third year now?
Right.
That we were expecting to see.
And this is what I've been thinking about him, and I heard this podcaster say it. And he plays small for a big man. When he goes down, he brings the ball down. Any big man knows you don't bring the ball down. And he doesn't take advantage of his height. If you watch Durant with that length and that long range, he doesn't play small when he goes into the paint. So he's playing aggressive going into the paint, but he's crouched down. He's not upright. He's not playing big, and I don't like that.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it's a direct result of Luke Walton trying to find a point forward? Because he's been playing point guard.
I know, but no, He's been that way. He's been that way since he's come into the NBA, and he hasn't improved that.
I'm not high or overly big on him either. I would like to give him a chance, but
And that Magic is really saying at one point he said he was the only untouchable.
But if I'm Magic, and I said this once upon a time ago, I get James Worthy out there to work with him.
You're somebody.
I mean, literally, because he's not playing to his height.
No.
He does have a nice little quick step. He does have handles. He could get on the box. He may not be strong enough, but he could probably get by somebody on the baseline.
Definitely. And then go big.
Right. But
He doesn't go big. But anyway, so what else stood out to you in the trade deadline? I mean, Rose was traded and is released now.
yeah, I mean, Cleveland really changed the landscape of the NBA with their surprise moves. And again, I don't think that this makes them a lock to go to the to the championship. But some of the guys that they did trade, they were unhappy. Derrick Rose, he's about to be bought out. Chances are he's going to go to Minnesota, or either Washington is interested in him as well right now. But I got to talk about who's a big loser right now. And I really think OKC is the biggest loser. I mean, here's a team that had their share of ups and downs to start with, and they lack depth on the bench. And then one of their starters go down, and you haven't done nothing to replace him. I understand they was trying to get Avery Bradley. They should have got Avery Bradley.
Right. Wow.
If that was the guy you was targeting, who I think would have been...
What were they talking about giving up to get Avery?
I don't know the principles, but whatever the Clippers wanted, I would have gave them.
So they wanted Avery Bradley after Detroit traded him to the Clippers. Then
Right.
Okay.
Right. So, I mean, if it was a first-round pick, I would have did it. I think Avery Bradley, believe it or not, I think Avery Bradley could have solidified that team, whether he started or came off the bench, and I think he would have started. I think that he would have gave them enough to make a push for sure for the conference finals.
And not saying that they won't make a push, but you're saying you need a little bit more, like Houston. Houston didn't do any trades, but that key pickup of
Brandon White, Joe Johnson.
Those are nice little pickups.
Hey, Brandon Wright is still young. He stretches the defense a little bit. He's not automatic or anything like that, but he's a guy that can give you a good 10, 12 minutes easily. Joe Johnson, whatever's left in the tank, he can hit an open shot. He's a catch-and-shoot player. He's a big guy. He can allow you to play small because he could guard some fours. I mean, in a situation, I could see somewhere in a situation where if they're playing Golden State, you can have Chris Paul, Harden, Ariza, Joe Johnson, and P.J. Tucker going up against Clay, Curry, Durant, Iguodala, and Draymond Green. Because I think P.J. Tucker could stay with Draymond Green. Yeah, and then you put Joe Johnson on somebody and so forth and so forth. But I think that was a huge move. And that's the kind of move that OKC needed to beat out Houston for.
What's his name? Sam Presti, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's always been known for, well, not always good moves, but making moves. I mean, he got rid of Harden, so you can't say good moves. But I'm surprised that he stayed pat.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. And you say, he always known for good moves. Do you know OKC once upon a time had Westbrook, Harden, Durant, Ibaka, and Jeff Green?
Yes.
Wow.
All in the same squad.
Wow.
And now all they have is Westbrook.
Yeah.
From that
five.
So, I don't know. But I think what we want to do is take a quick break, then come back and talk about how the trades are going to impact the finals or the playoffs. All right?
All right. Let's do it.
Hey, Rob, this is off the subject of basketball, but we're a part of New Flavor, right?
Yes.
And New Flavor is going to do a special broadcast to commemorate the release of the Black Panther movie. Theron is going to be out talking to people, and it's coming out this Friday. Now, what I've heard this movie has already sold $83 million in tickets pre-sales. So we're talking about the first black superhero movie, and it's already sold 83 million, and the movie hasn't even been released yet. Now, it's coming out Friday. You can buy your tickets now. You don't have to wait until Friday. To be exact, they're saying it's coming out on Friday, Rob, but check this out. I'm going on Thursday evening at 8 o'clock. I have 4 seats. Me, my wife, and my 2 daughters are going to see Black Panther on Thursday night. So don't hesitate. Go online, buy your tickets, or stand at the box office on Friday, but support Black Panther and watch what we're doing on New Flavor TV to talk about the Black Panther movie. We'll be right back. So, Ron, we talked about the trades, and we can go on and on about the trades, but instead of just talking about who was traded, what bodies were traded into what teams, I want you to talk about how the trades are going to impact the playoffs. Has anyone done anything to change their playoff hopes?
Well, I think Houston had with the buyout market has. I had OKC meeting Golden State in the conference finals. I think that they've increased their chances to get there. All they did was just strengthen their bench, and that you gotta applaud what they did. And they didn't do it by subtracting. They just added on, and they added 2 guys that won't disrupt anything.
When did Green come over there?
Oh, he came over about a month ago, and he's been like, really, I mean, you can't ask for anything better than that.
The little things that Morey is doing is just amazing.
And it's working.
It's working. But the biggest problem with Houston, people talk about Toronto, and we'll get to the East in a minute, but people talk about, Toronto, and they got to prove it. Harden and Paul got to prove that they're playoff players.
Well, you heard what I said once before about Dwayne Casey. He's the Andy Reid of the NBA. Well, I got to throw Mike D'Antoni in that as well.
Right.
He's the Andy Reid as well. And I had a conversation with some guys on the job about this too, because they know I'm a Carmelo fan, and they always say, he doesn't win in the playoffs, and he's this and he's that. And I said to him, how come Carmelo gets all this flack, but nobody questions
D'Antoni.
Chris Paul?
Oh, yeah, really?
I mean, what has Chris Paul done? He had a 3-1 lead up against the same team he's playing with. And somehow or another, he went on the court with a necktie.
Right, he choked.
Yeah. And Harden is the biggest choker. The biggest choker.
To be exact, when Houston came back against the Clippers, Harden was on the bench. Because he had choked up so much, and McHale was like, I can't deal with this joker.
So, to me, that group really has to prove that they can win games in May.
And that's the big thing. So that's why I am not. They're going to have to prove it to me. They're playing great ball. That type of team will play great during the season, but I don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs. But is there anyone else on the West that made any significant moves? No one really. Minnesota didn't do anything.
No.
OKC didn't do anything.
No, and I look for Minnesota to make a run at Derrick Rose just out of respect. They might make a run at Noah if the Knicks should release him. I think also OKC would make a run at Noah as well, but that's if he's being released. I don't see any significant moves that was made. The Clippers, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs with that trade. I mean, the real is Houston and also Cleveland. That would be the other one in the East. But,
so how does that impact? And when you talk about players that didn't do anything, Boston did get Monroe.
Yes.
Okay. And that was a nice little pickup.
I think so.
He was released, bought out, and they picked him up.
Yes.
It wasn't a trade. Do you think they could have done anything else?
Well, they wanted to. They were looking at Tyreek Evans, and for some reason with Tyreek Evans, I don't know. Memphis felt like they weren't getting enough in return. From what I understand, they wanted first-round picks, and teams was offering second-round picks. And what's sad about that, they pulled him out of games and told him stay away because they were going to trade him. Mm-hmm. And now he's back. I mean, how does that make you feel? So Boston, maybe they know something that we don't know, like
Gordon Hayward
could be returning. And if he returns, that's bigger than any acquisition
that was made. Yeah, exactly. All that was made.
Right. Exactly.
You know, their addition is better than anyone else's addition, even the 4 players that Cleveland picked up. But Toronto didn't do anything.
Well, I look for Toronto to keep eye on one player, and I think he's going to be bought out, and I think it's going to be something like a D-Wade homecoming, and look for Vince Carter to get bought out and return back to Toronto. And, you know, one thing about Vince, I don't think he has much left in the tank, but he can be helpful and useful just from camaraderie, being on the bench, and the fans would go, wow.
They would.
They would go, wow. There'd be a lot of support.
And it's a nice story.
Right.
No, I don't see it making any playoff impact, but a nice story.
I mean, and right now, Vince is positioning himself to be assistant coach. And I think he will take that tutor role on the team. Because right now, there's some young players on that Toronto team that's making an impact on that Toronto team. So having a Vince Carter there, you know, coming to the sideline could make a difference.
As long as they don't come in it like Wade. They say Wade was a disruptive force in the locker room. So,
but he's going home is different.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So maybe Wade will not be a disruptive force in the Miami locker room.
They're gonna love Wade in Miami.
Miami, it's Wade County.
Tickets went up like triple.
When he came?
When he came back.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, the nosebleeds went to $200.
Because of Wade.
Because of Wade, the return of Wade.
Pat Riley knows what he's doing.
He had the biggest 3.2 assists impact.
Impacted the box office.
In history.
Now, Cleveland, how does this position them? We just saw a blowout today. Keith came in before the show and said, yeah, man, they blew out Boston. Okay, one game.
Yeah.
First national game where they all played together.
Right.
They were feeling each other. They were new. They were feeding off of each other. Do you think today is indicative of what we're going to see come playoff time? Or how do you think they're going to fare?
I don't think there's enough time for this group to make a run for the finals. I think they get knocked off by Boston or Toronto.
In the Eastern Conference Finals or before it?
Whenever they meet them. You know, because here's the thing. They may meet one in the second round.
Right. If they stay where they're at.
So they may need to go through both of them.
To get to the title.
To get
to the championship.
Right. And I just don't see it. I like the team. And here's another thing. Keep in mind, as they're trying to gel right now, and we're in mid-February, 6 weeks later, when we're looking at April, Kevin Love returns.
Mm-hmm. And then they got to gel again.
Now you got to reincorporate him. I don't see it.
Let me ask you this. We talked about the possibility of the kid from Boston that's out with an injury. Gordon Hayward. We talked about the possibility of him coming back. At what point can he come back that you would play him in the playoffs? You don't wait. If he comes back just for the playoffs, he's not going to play. He's got to get some playing time in the regular season. So at what point in that season can you bring him back for him, conditioning, and to gel with the team?
If he's not ready to play by March 15th, March 16th, then I'm sitting him out.
Right.
I don't want to put him in there on April 1st and there's only 7-8 games left. And meaningless games as well. So I think for him, it's not necessarily a shot because actually he's been shooting. He's been shooting,
but it's the condition. It's the NBA games, stamina, the speed and the pace. Yeah.
Now the good thing is that the success that Boston has had with their young guys, he won't have to come in and be a starter.
Right.
He could come in
and come off the bench
and have some of the most valuable 15 to 16, 18 minutes a game and be a difference. Right?
What do you think? I mean, you stay on top of everything. You're the Woes of the projects. What do you think the chances are of him coming back?
I think it's less likely than likely. I would say it's got to be about a 35% chance he comes back.
Boston fans, they'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a welcome addition. You know, now Cleveland, I know this is not a big man's game anymore, but they're thin behind Tristan Thompson.
Yeah.
They need to make a run at Bogut.
Yeah, well, that's another one that we talked about in our last show, and no one has made a run at him.
There was a report that he was waiting to after the trade deadline so that he can really find his spot, but it's almost like he's a forgotten man.
And I haven't been able to stay on top of this. How's Jabari Parker looking? I know his first game back, he looked good.
He's coming along slowly but surely.
Because they didn't do anything either. Milwaukee didn't do anything, but you could say the addition of him coming back.
Yeah, but they missed Greg Monroe.
Yeah.
They had a guy that was coming off, giving them size off the bench, and positive buckets too. You know, Greg Monroe is not a player that's going to take his game to the three-point line.
No.
He's going to stay where
He's going to stay, yes,
he belongs.
exactly.
And
he ain't going to play a whole lot of defense either,
nah,
but
who does?
Right.
You know, so they could use Bogut, but I'm not sure what their plans are. Word around the league, there's a couple of buyout candidates like Irisova from Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
They already Bellinelli. He's going to sign with
Philadelphia,
which
right?
Is a very good,
very
move.
good pickup.
And people are wondering. This is going to be key now. People are wondering what Magic is going to do with Brook Lopez.
Is he going to release him, you mean?
Will they buy
him out?
So that he has an opportunity to
go with a playoff team.
With a playoff team. Now, he could be a guy that can get picked up by a number of teams and be a difference maker.
What team would you say, which 2-3 teams would you say he would make the best fit and impact on?
I mean, he could go to Golden State.
No, bite your tongue.
He could go to San Antonio. He could go to OKC. He could go to Boston. He could go to Cleveland. I mean, he could go a lot of places. And wherever he goes, he could be.
He's gonna be a factor.
He could be an impact.
Yeah.
He could be a factor. That's a better word. If they were to work out a buyout, I mean, they're gonna
the list would be pretty long.
They're gonna box out for him. That's a rebound that everybody's going up to get.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have a center, everyone.
Just
Toronto,
so that you don't get him,
exactly.
I'm
going to go get him.
That's the George Steinbrenner.
Right, yeah. I'm going to block you from getting him by getting him
exactly.
myself. I may not need him,
but you
ain't going to get him.
No.
Yeah, exactly. But, so, prediction, as far as, not playoff prediction, but Cleveland. You said now, well, you talked about, at first you thought OKC was going to play Golden State, and now you see Houston playing Golden State. Do you see Cleveland making the Eastern Conference Finals? Do you see Cleveland making it to the finals?
No, I don't see Cleveland getting past Boston or Toronto. So I don't know where they would meet them at, but whenever they meet any one of those teams, I don't see them getting.
And that's just because of the gelling, just coming together.
Just because of the gelling and so forth. And not only with the gelling, you got to understand, George Hill is playoff tested. Mm-hmm. Okay? Rodney Hood has maybe 1 year of playoff.
Right.
All right? Jordan Clarkson has never been to the playoff.
Never.
The last time Larry Nance was at a playoff, he was at his mother's lap when his father was
playing for Cleveland. Right, exactly.
So you accent, and here's the thing. It's not just going to the playoffs, but in Cleveland, it's finals or bust.
Right, going deep.
Right, so it's a lot to ask for guys that's just not in familiar territory.
Yes, however, when you have LeBron on that team, it takes some of that pressure off. Well, if you just, do what you're told. I mean, that's the bottom line. Isaiah Thomas didn't want to do what he was told.
Here's the thing about that. With the last group that went out, when the season started, you have LeBron. It's going to work out.
They didn't want to do it. But the caveat was, I said, do what you're told.
My point is that LeBron is not that do-all-fix-it-all kind of guy, And here's the thing. At the end of the day, the teammates has got to play.
No, they do have to play. But, Rob, when you have no Yeah, well, he'll a player just like me. I almost won the MVP last year. And you're coming there with a little attitude. You're coming in there and disrupting the locker room. And you're coming in there not saying, this is LeBron's team. Some were coming in there saying, this is our team. No, you got to know when you walk into a locker room with Jordan, that's his team. When you walk into a locker room with Kobe, that's his team. When you walk into a locker room with Bird, that was his team. When you walk into LeBron's locker room, that's his team.
Well, here's the thing. I said it before the season started. I didn't think it was going to work simply because I didn't think Isaiah would have played championship team ball. I thought Isaiah was going to play me ball. He was looking to get a contract. And it sounds and appears that's what it was. He gets traded to the Los Angeles Lakers.
I'm not coming off the bench.
I'm not coming off the bench. Right now, he went from possibly a 4-year, $160 million deal, $150 million deal, to now getting a mid-level exemption of $8 million this summer coming up.
And we're going to come right back. So, as we look forward and deal with the playoffs, you say Cleveland is probably not going to go to the Eastern Conference Final, and this will be the first time that LeBron hasn't been in the Eastern Conference Finals in, how many years?
Probably since the last decade.
Yeah. I mean, so that would be something, and, that, let's see if that happens. I don't think that's going to happen. I just think that he's going to find a way. And honestly, as high as I am on Boston and Brad Stevens, they just don't have the offense.
Well, here's what happened. Marcus Smart has been missing.
Yeah, he has been.
And to me, and I've always said this, he's their Draymond Green.
He's their Draymond Green.
He's their emotional lift, leader. He defends 1 through 3. He plays point guard, plays shooting guard. Right. They're missing what he does.
Right. They definitely are missing what he does. But even when he was playing and healthy, they have those droughts offensively, and they lean on. And now Kyrie is going to be ready. Kyrie is going to be Kyrie.
But I tell you what, in his absence, Rozier has grown up.
Oh yeah, he has.
He's grown up.
I like that kid.
Rozier is a solid ball player. You come from Rick Pitino, Louisville, him and Donovan Mitchell. But yeah, he's grown up. So when Marcus Smart comes back and he continues his play, it could be dynamic over there in Boston.
I will agree with you if why do I keep forgetting his name?
Who, Hayward?
Hayward, Gordon Hayward. If Gordon can come back, like you said, March 15th or maybe a little later, and then get worked in to coming off the bench, then I can say that Cleveland is going to be in trouble making. I think it's going to be Toronto and Cleveland again. I really do.
And just keep an eye out. The buyout market is not dried up.
No, it hasn't. So there's still some things. Yeah. So we can hold that thought. As we look at the week coming in, we always preview the games. There was only one game that really stood out to me. Right. And that's OKC against Cleveland. I think that's on Tuesday. Yeah. The players only. Sidebar, what do you think of players only?
I like it.
I like it too.
I like it a lot. It's educational.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, I love to hear the perspective. Greg Anthony is a guy I can listen to all the time.
All day, right. But I like with Isaiah. I mean, whenever they could talk to Isaiah. Now, I miss when they were doing it on NBA TV because Mikhail would be in the studio, and he gave some great insight as well.
They had a day where it was Isaiah and Sam Mitchell.
That's my dream.
I'm like, wow.
You
could cause some people to stay home from work.
Exactly.
No, it's just, I like the players only a lot.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, that game is going to be on players only.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be a very interesting game. That's really the only game of real interest that caught my eye for the week. So we're going to be ready for a special edition coming up on Sunday. We're going to tape on All-Star Night, right?
Yes.
And we're going to have a studio audience, right?
Yes.
Or a basement audience, right? Whatever you want to call it. We're going to have an audience. And we're going to have some surprises for you. We're going to have some fun. And did you hear that they let him back in the country?
Yeah, I did. So.
I heard they let him back in the country. Tim Brayboy will be back with us next Sunday. He's back from China. So We're going to have a special show for you next Sunday. But this is my favorite part of the show, our closing comments. Rod, take it away.
Well, I'm going to talk about the NBA. You know, I've got a chance to see a couple of decades and a couple of eras of the NBA. And to me, I think the best time of the NBA where they had the most talent was during the 1980s. One of the reasons why is because there wasn't as many teams. During the 80s, there were only about 24 teams. Your ninth man would be a starter on most teams today. It was just that much talent and was compact to limited amount of teams. But now I look around the league, and I'm a benefit off a league pass. And I get to see a lot of games, a lot of teams, and a lot of games. And I got to tell you, the NBA is healthy with talent. Yes, there's a lot of talent. I'm not sure what it is that the NBA has done to create this, but there is a lot of talent in the league. I think that we will go at least 5 years or more before we see another team only win in the double digits. In the teens. 12 games, 17 games, 19 games. I think every team is capable of winning 25, 30 plus games. Even though they're a losing team, they will still knock off the Clevelands or the Golden State. Whether it's back-to-back or not, the NBA is healthy with teams. You cannot walk into Sacramento and say this is going to be a win. Mm-hmm. You cannot walk into Orlando and say this is going to be a win. Orlando just came back from 20 to beat Cleveland about 4 or 5 days ago. Atlanta has their fair share of wins. New York has even beaten Cleveland early in the year by 20. There's no team that you can honestly say, that's just so-and-so, we're going there and win. You got to play to the end. And the league is healthy with talent. I'm glad to see it. A couple of tweaks here and there to shore that up, but the league is healthy. And I just wanted to give kudos to the NBA because I can enjoy an NBA game and it doesn't have to be my favorite
team, the Knicks, right? Yep. And I agree. The NBA is healthy. We are seeing some good play. I'm not going to say it's great play, but the NBA is healthy with stars, with players that are contributing. And like you said, we're playing the Lakers tonight, so that's a win.
And before you go, there's a group of stars to be right now.
Right.
Just like stars in waiting. Like in baseball when you have the on-deck circle for the next
There's
hitter.
some guys on deck.
There's some guys on deck in the NBA. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, it is. And I'm enjoying it as an NBA fan. I'm enjoying it. And I'm like you, my favorite time was the 80s. But right now it's pretty fun.
And it's fun to watch.
It's pretty fun to watch. I'm going to talk about, in 1998, there was a player that came out of Kansas that they honored today at the Boston Garden. His name was Paul Pierce from Los Angeles. Grew up in Los Angeles, played basketball in Los Angeles, played for the team that I probably hate more than any other sports franchise in the world, the Boston Celtics. Can't stand them. But I have nothing but respect for Paul Pierce. He had one heck of a career, and people will say, well, he only won one championship. But you know what I loved about Paul? Paul didn't say, when the going gets tough, get me out of here. He stayed, and he went through it, and he played hard. He came every game, and he gave it his all. And he didn't have the smoothest look to his game, but he was effective in everything that he did. He had a great career. He won that title when he got Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett, and of course Rondo playing point. What a great team playing for Doc Rivers. But I want to salute Paul Pierce. Yes, you played for the team that I hated. Yes, you went at Kobe, my favorite player. But you know what? You did it in a way that I would say was class. Thank you, Paul Pierce, for your contribution to the NBA. That's it for me.
And I just want to add to your closing comment that I think is forgotten. You know, you talking about a guy that did not leave the team and he stayed there until they made that trade. Mm-hmm. But this is also a guy that on his personal life was stabbed 17 times in the city of
Boston.
And yet, that didn't chase him out.
No.
He stood his ground to become an icon, and so much that the Chief went on record today to say he was a better offensive player than Larry Bird.
Now, come on, Chief.
Now, we know that the Chief got caught with marijuana coming to his mail in his house.
He was smoking some of that marijuana.
But you know what? I understand where you're coming from, Chief, but that's a huge statement.
That is.
You know, but Paul Pierce, well deserved. He's one of the Boston greats of all time, and you know what? He probably will be part of the top 75 if the NBA was to add 25 more.
Yes,
he'd be a lock to be in there.
And one last thing about Paul Pierce. We've talked for years about how terrible the ESPN broadcast of the NBA has been.
Yeah.
They added one person.
Wow.
And he's changed. Now, they still can't rival TNT, but it's an enjoyable show to watch now with Paul Pierce.
Makes a huge difference.
He's like you. He's the straw that stirs the drink.
He makes a huge difference, and I can listen to him.
I can now watch ESPN pregame and postgame show, which I would say, just let me see the game, and I'll wait until Thursday night and watch TNT.
But you know what, and I know we're going beyond it, but I think shows like that needs more players involved, not just the journalism. Mm-hmm. The journalists.
Journalists, right.
Right. The players.
And that's what they realize. I mean, I like, what's his name, from the, pardon the interruption, Mike Wilbon. I like Mike Wilbon. Yeah. I love Mike Wilbon. But give me those players.
And that's the difference of TNT.
Yes.
Opposed to what we've seen in the past.
Past on there. And, Jalen Rose is okay. Maybe we need to do a show about broadcasting in the NBA and how they should be hiring us. How about that? But anyway, I am the Minister.
And I'm Rob.
And we'd like to thank you for being a part of this Deep Hoop podcast. Remember, we're not experts, but we are passionate fans talking about the game we love, the NBA. We'll talk to you next week. All-Star time, folks. All-Star game next week. Peace.
Peace and blessings.